It's that time again. Main Man T. Back for the Bro Code Podcast. Produced by Kennedy Lucas.
What's good, family? You already know what time it is. It's your boy, Terry Lester, back on the mic, and you're now tapped into the Bro Code Podcast, where real ones link up, speak truth, and live by the code. 100 points. Today is May 25th, 2025, and trust me when I say this episode, it's something special. Cause I ain't riding solo today. Nah. We got a legend in the studio. The mogul, the mastermind, the multi-hyphenate king of content. Kennedy freaking Lucas is in the building as my special co-host.
What's poppin', Bro Code Nation? It's your boy Kennedy Lucas in the spot, and we're about to make some noise today. Y'all know I had to pull up and vibe with my guy, Terry. This one's gonna be a movie.
We got the mic hot. The takes hotter in the conversation, straight fire. We talk in relationships, hustle, legacy, loyalty, and everything in between. The stuff they don't teach you, but you need to know. And don't worry, we bring in laugh gems and a little bit of shade too.
It's facts on facts, so grab y'all drink, kick back, and lock in. Whether you're in the whip at the gym or chilling with the crew, we got the vibe for you right here. This ain't just a podcast, it's a movement.
Welcome to the Bro Code Podcast, baby, where men build, brothers grow, and real talk reigns supreme. Let's get it started. Rivalry renewed Kennedy. Why this absurd Knicks-Pacers series could signal a massive shift in the East. Michael Jordan's walk OFF message to then Indiana Pacers coach Larry Bird after vanquishing him in Game 7 in the 1998 Eastern Conference Finals is one of the most memorable moments of The Last Dance documentary. It's just one stitch in the tapestry of Pacers' rivalries over the decades. For a team that hasn't won a championship since moving from the ABA to the NBA in 1976, the Pacers have a lengthy history of deep antagonism with East rivals. The 1990s battles with the New York Knicks have been freshly unearthed this spring with the Reggie Miller footage of the choke gesture from the 1994 East Finals in heavy rotation. The infamous Malice at the Palace brawl was an outgrowth of the rivalry between the Pacers and the Detroit Pistons in the mid-2000s. In the 2010s, the Pacers went head-to-head with the Miami Heat in the playoffs 3 consecutive years, the peak being an epic 7-gamer in 2013, all won by the Heat, but all hotly contested and angst-ridden. This is the second consecutive postseason in which the Pacers have faced the Knicks, with last season's second-round battle won by the Pacers in a lopsided Game 7 at Madison Square Garden, where the Knicks essentially ran out of players. Now, as the teams face off in the 2025 Eastern Conference Finals, signs point toward this being the dawn of yet another epic in the rivalry. The Pacers and Knicks, with neither team having been, at any point in the season, the bookmakers' favorite to get this far, are both constructed for medium term. And with the Boston Celtics and the Cleveland Cavaliers, the two prohibitive favorites who were wiped out by the current Eastern Conference finalists in this year's second round, facing potentially significant challenges in keeping their rosters intact, the window for the Knicks and Pacers is suddenly very open, and perhaps will be for a while. The Pacers appears that they'll be facing some tough roster decisions this summer, specifically with the future of franchise center Miles Turner, who will be an unrestricted free agent as of June 30th. Turner is a two-way mainstay, a 10-year vet with the team in the middle of his prime at age 28. He averaged 15.6 points and 6.5 rebounds per game this season, is one of the best shot-blocking centers in the league, and is in the midst of his best-ever three-point shooting season, touching 40% this year. He scored 16 points, secured a vital rebound, and then made the game-clinching free throws as the Pacers went up 2-0 in the series Friday night. This season, Turner made just under $20 million, making him a relative bargain and in line for a raise. The Pacers owe stars Tyrese Halliburton and Pascal Siakam $91 million combined next season, and wing Andrew Nembhard, their former second-round steal, is headed to a raise from $2 million to $18 million next season after inking a new deal last year. But Indiana might be on the verge of entering a new era, team sources say, one not seen in 2 decades, one that aims to keep up with the Celtics, Cavs, Knicks, and everyone else. The small market Pacers have not paid the luxury tax since 2005. Don't ask Pacers fans a certain age about the 7-year. $51 million Austin Crosher contract after the 2000 finals, and owner Herb Simon and older brother Mel Simon, before his death in 2009, authorized less than $10 million in luxury tax spending in franchise history. For reference, 8 teams are paying more than $15 million in tax just this season. But Simon will turn 91 later this year and has taken on new investors in recent years. And with the Pacers making another deep playoff run, ownership has indicated a willingness to increase spending next season and potentially re-enter the luxury tax to keep this core together, sources said. You won't confuse the Pacers with the Phoenix Suns, who are paying in excess of $150 million in tax this year, and forget about even flirting with a repeater tax for dipping in year over year. The Pacers will have to remain fiscally responsible, but the salary cap is expected to increase 30% over the next 3 years as revenue from the new $77 billion media rights deal kicks in. Rival teams remain skeptical at this point, having for generations seen the Pacers make decisions to avoid the tax penalty as they monitor the Turner situation. But internally, the Pacers are hoping to be able to keep Turner without sacrificing their outstanding depth. Regardless of where this playoff run ends for Indiana, the goal is to maintain this latest incarnation for the foreseeable future, which brings US to the Knicks. Deep-pocketed owner James Dolan spent $200 million in luxury taxes between 2002 and 2010 alone, an outlier at the time. But this year is the first time New York has paid the tax in more than a decade, an indication of the team's time in the wilderness trying to build a contender. Now, the Knicks have finally constructed one. Their ability to keep the team together and add to it is less a question of dollars and more about flexibility under the NBA's newish apron rules. And this is why there is a belief across the league that New York is just opening its own pathway, perhaps right alongside Indiana. At the heart of why is star Jalen Brunson's 4-year, $156 million contract extension he signed last July. Had Brunson waited until this summer to sign a new deal, he could have gotten 5 years and $270 million. This massive team-friendly maneuver has the potential to pay off for the Knicks for years into the future. As the salary cap goes up, Brunson's under-market contract will become increasingly valuable as New York adds to its roster. Even with signing wing OG Anunoby to a $212 million contract and trading for Karl-Anthony Towns, who will earn $110 million over the next 2 seasons, the Knicks are in a position to remain under the so-called second apron for next year. New York's biggest challenge is depth, with the roster hollowed out by the trades for Mikal Bridges and Towns last year. Coach Tom Thibodeau has routinely relied on a core 7-man rotation throughout the regular season and playoffs. But by staying under the second apron, the Knicks will be able to address some of these depth issues when looking at trades and free agency this summer. Specifically, they are projected to be able to use the $6 million taxpayer mid-level to add some depth without touching their core. It might not be an earth-shattering move, but the margins matter, especially compared with other contenders. The Celtics are already a second apron team and will pay the punitive repeater tax next season, leaving them facing a $400 to $500 million payroll. Even before Jason Tatum's terrible Achilles injury, Boston was facing the possibility of removing a player or 2 from its core to manage cost and flexibility. The Cavs are entering the second apron next season with 2 valued bench players, Ty Jerome and Sam Merrill, headed to unrestricted free agency. They are in danger of losing one or both and could face having to trade another player to re-sign them. Even though team president Kobe Altman said last week that team ownership has given him the green light to spend to keep the team together. Once again, though, the challenge for Cleveland and other second apron teams isn't just a balance sheet, but the punitive penalties that rob the ability to manage rosters. Going deeper into the apron just makes it all that much harder to get out of it, which is guaranteed to be a forced reality at some point. Still, the best laid plans are just that, especially in the fragile environment within which the NBA operates. But the Knicks and Pacers have the basis of what every team badly strives for, the combination of a great roster and some runway. And they're currently staring each other down across it.
All right, Terry, as a wrestle fan, I need to talk about it. Let's talk Saturday Night Main Event live from Tampa last night. After a few minutes of filler and an introduction by Joe Tessitore, Rollins and Breakker made their way to the ring for their match against Punk and Zayn. Zayn has a special quality only a few people have. It's hard to describe it, but guys like Eddie Kingston, Kevin Owens, and Adam Page have it too. Something about them makes the crowd love them almost unconditionally. As soon as Punk hit the ring last, all four men started brawling. Visionary and the underdog from the underground ended up starting as the legal men, but Breakker tagged in quickly and hit his flying clothesline from the apron to the announce desk. We returned from a break to see Zayn being double teamed in the opposing corner. Punk got a big pop when he tagged in and took it to Rawls. They battled through another commercial break, which came very quickly after the first one. Paul Heyman got involved by grabbing Zayn's foot. The ref was too distracted to see Bronson Reed show up and put Punk through the barricade. Breakker hit a spear on Zayn to get the pin and the win for his team, but the biggest development was seeing Reed join the new alliance. These are four guys who each have their own unique style, but with three veterans and a young, hungry talent like them, it would have been shocking if they put on anything less than a good show. Getting Reed at the end was the icing on the cake. The Women's United States Championship was on the line when Green challenged Vega in an attempt to regain the title she held first. As always, Alba Fire and Piper Niven were at ringside for Green. They started with a quick sequence to take down the counters. Vega had the upper hand until Green powerbombed her on the floor for a near fall. Green eventually made a miscalculation and allowed Vega to begin mounting some offense. Unfortunately, a failed 6-19 from Vega completely stalled her momentum and got some jeers from the crowd. A few moments later, Vega hit a code red from the top rope to get the win and retain her title. This was shorter than expected and had one big mistake at the end, but other than that, this was decent. Green was busted open and bleeding in the ring as she complained about losing. R-Truth came out to Cena's music wearing his own version of Cena's gear for his match against the 17-time champion. Cena hit a clothesline before the ref could call for the bell. So the match started with Truth on his back. He looked disgusted as he listened to the crowd chant. Truth escaped the aisle and began using Cena's own move against him, including for a 2 count. Cena eventually recovered and hit the for the win. This was short, but it was exactly what we expected it to be. Cena decisively beat the only guy who still had faith in him following his heel turn, and then he hit him with the title belt just to pour salt in the wound. The penultimate match on the card saw McIntyre pre-step inside a steel cage in the hopes of finally ending their feud once and for all. The Archer of Infamy got the first hit and tried to build some momentum, but McIntyre fired back with some chops to the chest that echoed in the arena. They began using the cage to inflict damage almost immediately, with Priest being flung into the wall. As we went to a break, we returned to see them fighting as both men climbed the wall, but they made their way back down. The Archer of Infamy survived the Claymore and began to fight back with a flurry of strikes. McIntyre hit Priest's own South of Heaven chokeslam, but he still couldn't get the pin. A chair was brought into the ring, and both men used it to their advantage. Priest used a steel chair to hit a conqueror before he casually strolled out of the cage to get the win. This feud has had a handful of great matches. This might not have been the best in their series, but it was definitely a worthy entry. Both superstars came away from this looking like tough competitors, despite one having to lose. The main event of Saturday night's main event saw Uso defend the World Heavyweight Championship against Paul, who Cena seemed to want to see win the title to continue his quest to ruin wrestling for everyone. Jay applied a headlock to start and hit a shoulder tackle before a few uppercuts. Paul hit a blockbuster from the middle ropes to take control. The match started with less than 15 minutes left in the show, so we knew this would not be a battle of attrition. It would be a relatively standard bout with a few standout spots as Jay prepared to win with a splash. Cena showed up and pulled the ref from the ring. He attacked Uso as Paul looked on confused. Cody Rhodes' music hit and he ran to the ring to fight Cena off. Paul missed Rhodes with the brass knuckles and ate a spear from Uso before he hit another splash for the pin and the win. It looks like we will get a tag match between these four men at Money in the Bank. Saturday night's main event gave us a solid 2 hours of wrestling. Terrible. We would be lying if we said this felt like a playoff. It is more like an elevated episode of WWE TV than anything else, which made sense because that is exactly what it was. Cena vs. Truth was probably the weak point of the show due to its length and predictability. But it was fun for what it was and gave Truth a chance to shine a bit. The cage match was fun. Rejoining Rollins group to end the tag bout was a great move, and Vega and Green did solid work with limited time in their U.S. title match. However, all eyes were on the final match as Uso defended the world title against one of the most hated people in all of WWE. There was a moment when it looked like WWE might actually book a title change, but Rhodes saved the day by helping Uso retain. It had capped off a decent but mostly average show.
Kennedy, let's talk NFL. When Aaron Glenn was hired as an assistant coach by the New Orleans Saints in 2016, he received a roster-building tip from executive Jeff Ireland that he has carried with him on his coaching journey. "You can't be afraid of young players," Glenn said this week, recalling Ireland's words. "Some coaches can be skittish when managing inexperienced players, preferring to roll with seasoned vets. The first-year Jets coach doesn't seem concerned about having a youthful roster based on what has transpired this offseason. The Jets are turning a darker shade of green before our eyes. They have only 5 players entering their age 30 season or older. Quarterback Tyrod Taylor, 36. Long snapper Thomas Hennessy, 31. Wide receivers Allen Lazard, 30. And Josh Reynolds, 30. And guard Zach Bailey, 30. Keep in mind that rosters are fluid this time of year, but only one team has fewer age 30 and older players than Jets per spot track. The Green Bay Packers, 4. For the Jets, it's a stark contrast to last year when they opened the season with 12 players in that category, most notably quarterback Aaron Rodgers, 40, linebacker C.J. Mosley, 32, tackles Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses, both 33, kicker Greg Zuerlein, 37, and punter Thomas Morstead, 38. They're all gone, including wide receiver Devontae Adams, 32, a mid-season addition. The Jets, who finished 2024 with the 8th oldest roster, are now 29th per spot track. Listen, do we want younger players? Absolutely. It's a young man's game, Glenn said. It's a young man's game, but we want players that can help us win. So if those players happen to be 30 years old, we get those players. It just so happened that we got younger while we got players that could help us win. It was more than a coincidence. In free agency, they targeted players coming off their rookie contracts, namely quarterback Justin Fields, 26, and cornerback Brandon Stevens, 28. The strategy made sense. Generally, younger players are faster, less injury-prone, and coachable. That's an important element for an organization trying to rebuild its culture. 2, growing into the job, edge rusher Will McDonald has gained 15 pounds, according to Glenn. He didn't provide an exact weight, but it could put him in the 250s based on his listed weight from last season, 236. The Jets say this is a good thing because they believe it will make him a stronger edge setter against the run. There's always a delicate balance when a speed player adds weight. The last thing you want to do is compromise his best asset. "We're going to let him loose," Glenn said. "We're going to let him go get the passer. That's what he does best." One of the few bright spots last season, McDonald finished with 10.5 sacks, but registered only 2.5 over the final 10 games. The extra weight may aid his endurance for the second half of the season. 3, you can't flip a switch. There's a lot of happy talk emanating from one Jets drive about the new culture, which is what you'd expect with a new regime in charge. But this won't be an overnight process, especially for an organization that has finished in last place in 7 of the past 11 seasons. Glenn knows this. In his previous stop, it took the Detroit Lions 2 full seasons before they flipped the script. The true test of culture, he said, is when adversity hits. And it will hit. That's inevitable. 4, Ohio State reunion. Wide receiver Garrett Wilson remembers watching the 2021 draft, wondering why teams were passing on Fields, his college QB. Fields went 11th overall to the Chicago Bears, but Wilson felt he was good enough to go higher. He followed Fields through his first 2 seasons in Chicago, thinking to himself that he would have made some catches that the Bears receivers didn't. He always wanted to play with Fields, never thinking it would happen. His reaction when Fields signed in March? "A big smile on my face," Wilson said. 5, no joshing. When the Jets signed former Packers starting center Josh Myers, it was widely assumed that he'd be the backup to incumbent Joe Tipman. General manager Darren Moogie spiced it up when he said in late March that Myers is going to compete to push Tipman. Sure enough, that competition is underway. Tipman and Myers are battling their asses off right now, guard John Simpson said this week. Fun fact on Myers: he has started more games, 56, than any lineman on the team, one more than Simpson. It's the kind of experience in the pivot that could come in handy on such a young line. This is a positional battle to watch. 6. Cap relief. Rodgers and Mosley, both released in March with post-June 1 designations, are counting a combined $36.3 million on the salary cap. On June 2nd, that number drops to $13.5 million, making the Jets one of the leaders in cap room. They will have plenty of flexibility to sign Wilson and cornerback Sauce Gardner to contract extensions. 7. Safe tie. At home, safety Andre Sisco grew up on Long Island, and he watched a few Jets practices as a kid when they were based at Hofstra University and attended some home games with his mother. His favorite player was quarterback Mark Sanchez. Now, after 4 seasons with the Jacksonville Jaguars, Sisco is in the New York area again, enjoying the air. Living here has been natural, and the air feels better, he said. He wasn't referring to air quality. He meant the crisp mornings, which he missed in Florida. The Jets hope Sisco, 8 interceptions in 4 years, can bring a playmaking element to their secondary. They haven't had a true ball hawk at safety since Kerry Rhodes, circa 2007, back when Sisco was a 7-year-old Jets fan. 8. Jets are pro push. At the NFL spring meeting this week, the Jets were among 10 teams that voted against the proposed ban of the tush push. It was close. The proposal came up 2 votes shy of approval, but the controversial play, popularized by the Philadelphia Eagles, will continue for the 2025 season. It will be interesting to see if the Jets incorporate it into their playbook. Fields, one of the league's most dangerous running quarterbacks, has attempted 12 push sneaks in his career, converting 11 for first downs, per ESPN research. Since 2021, only 2 quarterbacks have tried it more than Fields: Jalen Hurts, 86 for 100, and Josh Allen, 54 55. 9. Hidden gems. When it comes to undrafted free agents, the amount of a player's guarantee often indicates how much demand he generated after the draft. Some perspective: not many players receive more than $200,000. The Jets doled out 3 relatively large contracts, according to Over the Cap: guard Leander Wiegand, $249,000, defensive tackle Peyton Page, $201,500, and edge rusher Jamarcus Weston, $200,000. The Jets have a pretty good track record with undrafted free agents, typically keeping 2 or 3 on the final roster. With a new coaching staff, that number could rise this year. 10. Going back, former Jets GM Joe Douglas has landed a scouting position with the Eagles, his previous team. Former coach Robert Saleh and former interim coach Jeff Ulbrich also were hired by their previous teams, the San Francisco 49ers and Atlanta Falcons, respectively. Who says you can't go home again?
For howdy, Terry. Upcoming PS5 game is a tribute to the golden age of 3D platformer. Touted as a tribute to the golden age of 3D platformers, the upcoming action-adventure game Scratch the Cat blends old-school game mechanics with a new musical twist. Scratch the Cat is set to launch for PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox consoles in the second half of 2026, and players can get an early look at the familiar elements and surprising twists that await in this fresh take on retro classics. The 90s established a key era in gaming history with the transition from 2D side-scrollers like Super Mario Bros. To re-platforming video games like Banjo-Kazooie, setting a major trend that would carry through the early and mid-2000s. While that trend tapered off and was replaced with other key periods in gaming, the recent reemergence of the 3D platforming genre has set the stage for new entries that pack a nostalgic punch. Developer Flat Ponies has revealed the first official announcement trailer for Scratch the Cat, a 3D platformer that pays homage to the early days of PlayStation games like Spyro the Dragon, Ratchet and Clank, and more. The titular cat, Scratch, is a rhythm-driven DJ on a mission to recover the music records that Snatch the Rat has stolen. Players will need to lead Scratch through a grooving, vibrant world that moves to the beat of an original soundtrack ride, chaining and mixing together his feline moves of running, jumping, climbing, and fighting to recover the fragments of his records and restore his musical collection, featuring clever puzzles, quirky characters, and headlining boss battles. The announcement trailer for Scratch the Cat quickly introduces audiences to a refreshing yet familiar world of platforming adventure with music heavily reminiscent of early PlayStation classic. Scratch can be seen collecting coins, changing outfits, fighting enemies, and even using environmental abilities like grappling and wall jumping. Audiences have already begun drawing comparisons between Scratch the Cat and mega hits like the Jak and Daxter series, as well as more recent beloved games including A Hat in Time. Scratch the Cat is available now for wishlisting on Steam, the PlayStation Store, and the Xbox Store. Recent years seen a renaissance store. Recent years has seen a renaissance of sorts for 3D platformers, with the latest entry in the Crash Bandicoot series and rising indie games catching the eye of fans. Offering a blend of retro vibes with a modern twist, interested players may want to stay tuned for any updates on Scratch the Cat and other 3D platformers coming to PC and consoles. Direct sequel for Final Fantasy 16 is the best path forward for one important reason. A direct sequel would allow Final Fantasy 16 to explore the full impact of a world without magic. Felicia's entire history has revolved around Mother Crystal's dominance and econs. Removing those elements is not just the thematic decision, it's a tonic shift and how the world operates. A sequel could dive deep into how societies adapt, how political powers restructure, and how people survive without magic or the tools they once depended on. Take Rosaria, for example. In Final Fantasy 16, it's portrayed as a proud and noble nation, devastated early in the game by betrayal and conquest. If the world is remade without magic, Rosaria could see major changes in his rebuilding and potential new forms of leadership rising. Moreover, a sequel could finally confirm Clive's fate. Whether he died as a martyr or lives on in hiding, having that closure could make the themes sacrifice and rebirth more resonant. Square Enix has an opportunity to dine what the legacy of Clive Rossfield means to the future of the franchise. Final Fantasy 16 has already departed from many franchise norms, such as being a mostly sole character action RPG with real-time combat and no party system. Sequel could act as a narrative and gameplay bridge to Final Fantasy 17, which has yet to be officially announced. If Square Enix intends to bring back squad-based combat, a Final Fantasy 16 sequel could ease that transition by introducing party mechanics that feel earned through the story. Clive spent most of the original game working alone, but he wasn't without support. Characters like Jill, Sid, and Gav were emotionally significant and infrequently present in combat sequences, albeit as AI-controlled allies. A sequel could fully realize a party dynamic where the player controls multiple characters, allowing for more complex team synergy and even strategic planning, all without breaking the tone of the narrative. Gameplay evolution could be paired with darker world building. A magic-less world could give way to new threats, such as remnants of Ultima's ideology still lurking in the shadows. These are the types of questions that a sequel could answer while paving the road toward Final Fantasy 17. The major reason for a direct sequel is emotional and narrative payoff. The original ending, while poetic, arguably left too much unsaid. Jill's moment with Media is poignant, but it's interpretive. The two boys in the prologue may suggest rebirth, reincarnation, or metaphor. But without confirmation, it leaves players in limbo. Rather than opting for a vague, thematic conclusion, a sequel could give characters like Jill, Torgal, and even Dion Lisage a proper epilogue, watching Jill process her grief or joy. The restructuring of political systems that were built around dominance would be an integral element of this type of game. Additionally, it opens the door for new antagonists who oppose the changes Clive brought. If Ultima was the embodiment of absolute control, then a future enemy could be Chaos Incarnate, someone who sees the loss of structure as an opportunity for domination. Such conflicts would be deeply connected to the themes of legacy, power, and human resilience that Final Fantasy 16 was already exploring. This would also bring thematic closure to Clive, whether he's alive or remembered, showing the effects of his sacrifice on the world makes that choice meaningful. A World Reborn deserves to be seen in full, not left as a footnote in a credit sequence.
Kennedy Let's Talk retailer issues warning against Switch 2 scalper listings. Yahoo Shopping in Japan warned all its customers by petitioning them to stay away from scalper listings of a Nintendo Switch 2. Yahoo Japan reiterated Nintendo's plans to ramp up the availability of the Switch 2 ahead of its June 5th launch, urging users to shop calmly and avoid spending more money than necessary on Nintendo's upcoming system. The announcement came weeks after the Switch 2 started taking pre-orders globally. Despite initial delays due to the Trump administration's tariffs on global goods from nations like China, the Switch 2 was available for pre-order starting April 24th. However, Switch 2 pre-orders in the US and Canada proved chaotic, as the websites of retailers like Best Buy and Walmart struggled with demand. As of this writing, Switch 2 pre-orders have mostly shifted to my Nintendo Store email waiting list, as the company utilizes ways to deter scalpers and offer customers an easier opportunity to buy a new console and accessories. As retailers shift toward offering better Switch 2 inventory on launch day, a popular Japanese website warned users to shop smartly. According to a post from Yahoo Shopping in Japan, and translated by Stealth40K on Twitter, the retailer asked customers to avoid scalper listings for the Switch 2 system and to shop smartly ahead of the June 5th launch. Yahoo Shopping stated that the Switch 2's launch may cause confusion in the Japanese market due to the increased attention and cautioned users to pay attention to market trends. Yahoo Shopping cited a previous statement from Nintendo President Shuntaro Furukawa, who said that Nintendo would ramp up production of Switch 2 consoles as overwhelming demand for the system in Japan caused problems for the company's console lottery system. Nintendo asked users to remain patient as it worked with retailers to keep Switch 2 stock flowing. Yahoo Shopping reiterated that any listings of goods that are not yet available violate the site's terms of use and will continue to take down fraudulent scalper listings for the Switch 2. Between that and continued efforts by Nintendo fans to deter Switch 2 scalper listings from appearing on eBay, it remains to be seen how effective Nintendo and Yahoo Shopping will be in their efforts to meet customer demand. Despite the console's imminent launch, the My Nintendo Store pre-order email list remains an active option for users willing to wait for a chance to purchase a Switch 2 console and accessories directly from Nintendo. Only time will tell how many units will be in stock come June 5th.
One last thing, Terry. If the Las Vegas Aces team bus took the right detour to Salty Sunday's game against the Seattle Storm, and it could pass a mural couple blocks northwest of Climate Pledge Arena, unveiled in March 2021, months after the Storm won a record-tying fourth NBA championship. Swarm the Mal depicts the team's big three: Sue Bird, Jewell Loyd, and Brianna Stewart, wearing the Black Lives Matter and say her name t-shirts players used for warm-ups during the 2020 season played in a bubble in Bradenton, Florida. That's how Loyd hopes she'll be remembered in Seattle. A key part of the iconic trio who brought home 2 titles in 3 years. I don't think you could look at Seattle and not think of us three, as well as Lauren Jackson, as players who came in as young adults and kind of grew up into mature women, Loyd told ESPN. I think that's really cool to be a part of that, yet Loyd will be on the Aces bus Sunday. Her return to Seattle for the first time as a visiting player came much sooner than anyone had expected. After signing a contract extension in 2023 at the end of the Storm's first season, honoring Bird's retirement and Stewart's departure for the New York Liberty in free agency, Loyd helped recruit star free agents Skylar Diggins and Nneka Onwenu. She looked like the bridge between Seattle Big Threes, helping turn the Storm to contention. Instead, after an investigation into Loyd's offseason complaint alleging bullying and harassment by the Storm coaching staff found no violations, she requested a trade, but she hopes her accomplishments in Seattle will never be forgotten. I think I tried to lay the foundation for what a championship team looks like. Championship player, he said, and that's the same for me, Stewie, and Sue. And we all talk about it ourselves. We really left our mark. Loyd's split with the Storm began in November when ESPN confirmed the Chicago Sun-Times report that the organization had retained an outside investigator to assess Loyd's allegations against the Seattle coaching staff led by Noah Quinn, a former teammate of Loyd's who has been head coach since 2021. ESPN subsequently confirmed that Loyd had filed the complaint. The following month, Seattle released a statement indicating the investigation had been completed without finding any violations. Hours later, the Sun-Times reported and ESPN confirmed that Loyd had requested a trade from the team that drafted her. No. One on out of Notre Dame in 2015. The Seattle Times later reported that Loyd would have withdrawn her trade request had the team fired Quinn. In pursuit of what she described as a fresh start, Loyd understood she couldn't control her destination, having signed a 2-year extension with the Storm that runs through this season. Once the request was made, I didn't really have a say, Loyd said. Everything kind of worked out, and I got to a place I wanted to be with people who I know and an organization that is a contender. For their part, the Storm organization was willing to send Loyd somewhere she wanted to be, with the Aces at the top of that list thanks to Loyd's experience playing with Las Vegas stars Chelsea Gray, Joe Wilson, and Jackie Young, part of a core along with Kelsey Plum that won back-to-back one-bay titles for the Aces on the U.S. women's national team. I think we always try to do right by the players if we can, and if there's a situation that makes sense for us as well. Seattle GM Talisa Rhea told ESPN, I feel like that trade kind of accomplished all of those things. Plum's desire to join the Los Angeles Sparks via a sign and trade as a core free agent sent up a workable 3-team framework. Loyd went to the Aces as Plum's replacement in the starting 5, while the Storm were able to land a package of picks and players headlined by this year's No. 2 overall selection, a pick they used on 19-year-old French post player Dominique Malanga. Ahead of her second game with Las Vegas earlier this weekend, Connecticut, Loyd said she hasn't been thinking about what her return to Seattle on the visiting side might be like. It's another game for us, she said. I'm focused on what we're trying to do. Obviously, I have family in Seattle as well, so it's always nice to see family when you can. After an off night in her Aces debut, scoring 5 points on 2 of 10 shooting in a loss at New York, Loyd looked more like her all-star self against the Sun. She scored 20 points in 21 minutes, making 6 3-pointers to match her 2024 season high. Or Friday, Loyd made the game-winning 3 in the final seconds to beat the Washington Mystics in her first home game. In the early going, Loyd is feeling good about how she's fitting in with a Vegas team that lost in the semifinals last year. I think a lot of it is adjustments, she said. I think we're seeing that throughout practice and learning a lot more terminology for me, seeing where I can have my influence on both ends of the floor. As for this weekend, in addition to seeing family, Loyd is hoping to visit Molly Moon's Seattle favorite, pretty iconic ice cream place. She said that she shouted out in her Players Tribune farewell to the Storm. Long a fan of Molly Moon's, Loyd's connection to the local chain deepened when she wore custom shoes to promote autism awareness last season, designed by her best friend's son, Justice Swan, who has autism. They've always been super supportive, and we shared a nice bond in my shoes, Loyd said. They supported me a lot, so maybe go back there. Molly Moon's founder, Molly Moon Nitzel, attended a game season with her daughter, who also has autism, and took note of Loyd shoes and the video describing their meaning. Nitzel plans to be at Sunday's game and says she would love to scoop ice cream for Loyd if she makes it to Molly Moon's.
Aight, fellas, and the ladies too. We're going to wrap it up right here on the Bro Code Podcast. It's your boy, Terry Lester. And listen, today's episode, man, that was straight heat. Major love to everybody who tuned in, chopped it up with us, and caught these gems we dropped. But yo, before we sign off, I gotta give a big time salute to my special co-host who pulled up and brought that fire today, Kennedy Lucas. Bro, you already know, when the energy's real, the convo hits different. That's what Bro Code is all about.
Terry, it's been nothing but love, man. The vibes, the laughs, the real talk. This is what the culture needs. Bro Code ain't just a name, it's a movement. I'm proud to sit at this table and talk that truth with you.
And that's word. Look, whether you're out there hustling, chilling after a long day, or just need a space to feel seen and heard, we got you every episode, every time. No floof, no capítulo. Just brotherhood, truth, and code. So until next time, y'all stay sharp, stay loyal, and above all, honor the code. Catch us on the next drop Same vibe, same mic. This is the Bro Code Podcast. Signing out with love, light, and a little bit of swagger. Peace, blessings, and barbershop banter. We out.